go ahead and do the roll call of members before we start the public hearing.
Okay.
And what? Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Fort Wayne Community School Board of Trustees. We have a hearing tonight and we actually then have a regular meeting. Just a reminder, you can watch this on Comcast Channel 54, Frontier Channel 54, and it is also streamed live on the Fort Wayne Community School Facebook page. And for the purposes of the public hearing that we will have, comments can be posted on the Fort Wayne Community School Facebook page. So we're going to start with roll call of members, just like we were seated in the boardroom. So Steve.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Good evening, Glenna Yale from the 2nd.
Smith, 3rd District.
Maria Norman, member at large.
Ann Duff, member at large.
And I'm Julie Hollingsworth, elected from the 1st District. We also have the clerk of the board, Janet Doherty, with us. And we have our superintendent, Dr. Wendy Robinson. We begin by opening a public hearing for the purpose of hearing public comment on the terms and conditions of a proposed superintendent contract for employment. So the terms of the contract, according to Indiana law, have been posted on the Fort Wayne Community School website and in the local newspaper. And again, immediately following the public hearing, the board will move into its regularly scheduled meeting. So we will, our secretary, Ann Duff, will read some of the comments into the public record, identifying the commenter. The comments must be on topic, which is the terms of the superintendent contract. So we will now begin we'll give it about 10 minutes, I think. So begin the public comment period.
Madam President, I just have a question regarding this public hearing. And in addition to accepting comments from the public, are we also required to review the basic elements of the contract before we adjourn the public hearing?
No, we are not.
No. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Those were posted in the newspaper, the elements Correct. Of the contract.
Correct.
Okay.
They have been posted in the newspaper and posted on our website.
We have 140 viewers on Facebook, but we're delayed slightly, so no comments right now.
The newspaper and posted on our
From Jennifer Mathias, she would like to know, can we review the contract months? So how long is the contract for?
It's a 3-year contract beginning July 1st and ending June 30th of 2023. with additional 1 year, what's that called, Bruce? A 1 year
Extensions.
extensions. Thank you.
And just to clarify, we are doing a public hearing about the teachers or the superintendent's contract right now, and then the regular board meeting will follow.
Madam Chair, just to add on that comment expressed by Ann and Bruce, I'm looking at the basic terms of the agreement, and it's, as you said, 3-year contract through June 30th, 2023, may be extended for a maximum of 5 additional renewal terms of 1 year. So those are the specific terms of that regarding term.
And past superintendent's contracts, they haven't always been a 3-year contract. What has been former superintendent contract time frame?
3 years is the maximum allowed by Indiana law, correct, Bruce?
Correct.
And this is Bruce Boxberger, by the way, who is our board attorney.
Does anyone know what the aggregate amount of this package is? Because I never got an answer to my question.
Well, Glenna, this is Bruce. You see the annual base salary. You see the possibility of performance bonus decided by the board. You see the annuity. I mean, those would be the fixed figures. That's why you don't have a total, because the other ones would basically fluctuate as far as retirement, vacation, health benefits, and things like that. I mean, it's a little bit illusory to say, hey, this thing is worth such and such, because a lot of the package involves obviously things that are firm, like the salary, but then other things fluctuate as benefits change, and there are other cost factors that are not in here that are required by law for any employee, so those wouldn't be included. But the notice sets forth all of the terms and conditions of the economic benefit. If that answers your question.
And by the way, anyone can go on the Indiana Gateway and look at the total salary package for probably anyone who's a public employee. So certainly our superintendent or other superintendents in the state.
Another thing.
But we won't know the amount until after the fact. Is that what we're saying? Like,
no, you know the amount. You would know the amount right now.
You know the amount now if you look at all the factors.
Add it up.
Well, there was a whole section that was other benefits, so that I didn't know if there was a quantitative amount for all those things.
I mean, those would be similar to what we did for the past superintendents.
Right.
There's some sort of, and I don't know exactly what it is, but and it might be, I think maybe what goes on the gateway, and Kathy Friend would know, is what might be considered taxable income. But that's what you would see on the gateway. Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, that's what you would see on the gateway. Yeah.
right.
But the benefits are dependent upon too, like choices, certain choices that the candidate would make.
That's right.
Right, like whether you have family insurance or you
Right.
only need insurance for yourself.
Right.
Ann, did you see the other question on there?
I can't see anything. I don't know if they disappear after a while because I can't see all the,
Someone asked, Amy Warman asked, does this mean we'll only have this person for 8 years max? And my answer to that would be not necessarily. I mean, anyone, for example, just like we did with Dr. Robinson, you can, at the end of 3 years, we could agree to another 3-year contract. That's always a possibility. So basically the length of employment is determined by both the superintendent's desire to stay employed and the board's desire to keep him employed.
Performance.
Yeah. And if that were the case, we would go through the same process as far as notification to the public, public input, public meetings, things like that. It would be the same process.
so I haven't gotten a lot of comments, just a review of what was said so far. Could we do that and maybe close the comments?
Yeah, we'll give it another minute.
Can you review what was mentioned?
Someone asked about the length of the contract, and the initial contract term is 3 years. Somebody asked about has it always been a 3-year contract? Not always, but that is the maximum allowed by under Indiana law. Somebody asked, when will we know who the new superintendent is? That will be announced at our next meeting on May 26th.
If they want to see the contract, if they didn't see it in the paper, where else could they find that?
It was published in the Journal Gazette on May 8th.
May 8th.
And there was an article roughly outlining.
It was
the following day or the same day? Following day, May 9th?
Well, you're right. It may have been the same day or the following day on page 1 of the Journal Gazette.
Right.
I think I mean, and just in looking at what the contract calls for is a base salary of $215,000, and then everything else is pretty standard there. And we haven't sold the ranch for this contract. The only interesting item I see, Madam Chair, is in the request of the candidate to make sure that they can attend Rotary Club meetings, because the candidate feels that's awfully important as a connecting point with the community. There's other clubs and organizations, but the candidate felt very strongly about the importance of being a part of Rotary Club. Rotary Club in Fort Wayne has been a substantial partner to the district. So that was an not unusual, but probably the only out of normal benefit that I see here. But it's, I think we've been very judicious. The candidate will still not be, even though we are the first or second largest district in the state, will not be the highest paid superintendent in the state of Indiana. So thought we have negotiated a very fair contract, and thanks to the board and our attorney.
Couple more questions. They keep disappearing. One person, Jean, I believe was her name, but I don't see the comment on here anymore, but wanted to know what the qualifications we were looking for in a superintendent. And Jennifer Mathias had something, but it disappeared.
I think Jennifer Mathias asked if for some reason the superintendent would not meet our expectations, what would it cost the district to break the contract? And Bruce, I believe there is no buyout clause, correct?
Absolutely, there is no buyout clause.
Correct. So it would not cost us anything.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, I am going to declare the hearing on for the purpose of public comment on the terms of the superintendent contract now closed. I guess maybe we should vote all in favor of adjourning the public hearing. Signify by saying aye when Ann calls your name.
Steve?
Yes.
Glenna?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Yes for me. Julie?
Yes. Okay, so the public hearing is adjourned. And so now we begin the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Tom, do you have your flag?
Oh, no, I didn't bring it. Oh,
Okay.
no.
Well,
There it is.
we got a flag. There we go. That's right. I forgot Janet always provided us with a flag. So we will now do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I pledge allegiance,
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
Under
under God,
God,
indivisible,
liberty and
with
justice
justice for all.
Well done, well done. How do those people that do Zoom singing or
I
whatever
have not figured that out.
even coordinate that? I mean, we can't even get
Obviously
together.
not
on
live.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we have no awards and recognitions. So that brings us to the consent agenda. And those are items that come to us every meeting. They include the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting on May 11th, vouchers for the period ending April 27th and May 15th, and the personnel report. So do we have a
Madam
motion
Chair, I'd
and a
move
second?
approval. I would move approval of the three items listed under the consent agenda, the approval of minutes, vouchers, and personnel report.
Thanks, Steve.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Tom. And of course, members have seen all of those items. So all those in favor?
We have to do
When
roll
Ann
call.
calls your name.
Steve, how do you vote?
Yes.
Glenna?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Yes from me. Julie?
Yes. Okay. So, Dr. Robinson, was there anything in the personnel report you wanted to mention?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have no old business. That brings us to new business. We have two items. The first is a resolution authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds. It's recommended that the board approve a resolution that authorizes the future refunding of certain bonds if net present debt service savings is at least 3% of the principal amount of the refunded bonds. The information given is the Fort Wayne Community School Building Corporation issued bonds in 2013 and 2014 related to the 2012 referendum. Outstanding payments of these bonds are eligible for refunding or refinancing. The resolution allows for all or a portion of the outstanding bonds to be refunded. The Fort Wayne Community Schools Building Corporation took appropriate action prior to this meeting that allows for refunding bonds upon board approval. And in your board packet, you can see the 5-page resolution, which I am not going to read. So do we have a motion and a
I
second?
move we approve the resolution to refund the bond.
I'll
Second.
Okay, thank you, Glenna. Thank you, Maria. So Kathy, just a brief explanation. Basically, we are giving you and our bond agents permission to, as they keep an eye on interest rates and things like that, to refinance if we can save at least 3% of the principal amount.
That's correct.
Okay. And so that would allow us, that makes, when you refinance, there are always refinancing costs involved, and that 3% allows us to make sure we're not, it's not costing us money to refinance.
That's right.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have a question. So what is 3% equivalent to in real dollars, Kathy?
So Jim Elizondo had provided us a document. And by the way, Jim is on the Zoom as well as Jeff Qualkenbush if you have questions for them. But I had forwarded that to you earlier. The estimate he provided was at 3%, the net savings would be about $2.2 million. So we'll wait till such time that would, be realistic to get those savings. Otherwise, we won't do it. We'll hold off until that's a possibility. So
Since they're on.
I was going to just add, the savings is about $200,000 a year in debt service payments is how that works. So that would mean that what the amount that we would need to bring forward for the board to approve would be lower over a number of years. It wouldn't be immediate savings. It would be over time.
I have two follow-up questions. And Kathy, the first one is to you, Kathy, is that if we do go out and refinance the bonds and we pull down X amount of dollars, what is the use of that money? Can we move it into our two other budget areas, or does it have to stay restricted for other activities?
Basically, what it's doing is reducing our future debt payments is what it's doing. So just like when you refinance your house and you reduce your future loan payments is what we're doing. So that will play into our bond rate strategy as we go forward. It'll just become part of our total picture. And those particular bonds will be costing us less than what they currently are set out to cost us.
Second question is to our two experts that have joined us this evening. And as long as you're with us, fellas, tell us a little bit about the market right now. What do you anticipate happening in the next month or so?
Well, Steve, this is Jim Elizondo. I can start. Back in February, when we first approached Kathy with this, before any of COVID, our rates were still very attractive and quite low. That savings was closer to $3.2 million. Then COVID hit and rates went, the market got very skittish for a while. The tax exempt rates have actually come back to fairly close to where we were before the COVID hit. The taxable rates, which this refunding currently would have to be done as a taxable refunding, the taxable rates haven't quite followed the municipal rates, the tax exempt rates yet. But, and that's why we're under that 3% savings currently. We have seen an improvement in the last couple of weeks to that taxable rate, in that it is finally starting to move to its normal relationship, or as much as normal can be used, but that relationship it has with U.S. Treasuries and with tax-exempt bonds, the taxable market is starting to get active again and move into a more normal trading range. So our hope is that we continue to see improvement in the taxable rates, even if the market rates or the tax-exempt rates don't change very much, just in trying to get its relationship back in this order that it's been in the past. Again, from a just future interest rate standpoint, I still think we're going to stay in attractive ranges. I don't see a lot of pressure to see rates moving higher, especially with the government support that they're trying to offer to municipalities and to the markets, the capital markets in general. So that's where I think we are in a quick synopsis.
Any other questions?
Kathy, if we recapture this money, what would you like to do with it?
Well, as I said, we won't be recapturing the dollars into the district. It will impact our tax strategy that we go moving forward with our future projects. So it may mean that we can pay earlier on some of our new debt because we have an opening now to pay a reduced rate on the existing debt. Am I saying this correctly, Jim?
Yes, I don't know if you my head nod, but yes.
So it's not going to be that we're going to gain these dollars in our pocket each year, but it will reduce the amount of our existing debt, which means when we have new debt, and hopefully we will if we win the referendum, that we will have a lower interest rate on our existing debt. So that helps taxpayers in the long run, that we have total, in the end, we pay less interest in total if you look in the long term.
Well, I appreciate the work that you and Jim and Jeff do, because I think it just offers another reason why voters should vote yes for the referendum if they've not already voted. We don't put matters to rest. We take a look at these opportunities when they present themselves, and so I think just another good argument as to why we're fiscally responsible when we undertake these capital renovation projects. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of approving the resolution signify by saying aye.
Let me take roll call. Okay, Steve.
Yes.
Glenna.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Maria.
Yes.
Yes for me. Julie.
Yes. Okay. Next, that brings us to textbook adoption and rental fees. It's recommended that the board adopt proposed materials for the 2020 to 2026 school years for use in grades K through 12 fine arts. That's dance, music, theater, and visual arts. K through 12 social studies, 9 through 12 family and community services, and 6 through 12 business. It's also recommended that the board approve the rental rates for the 2020 through 2026 school year. So the information provided is that a textbook adoption committee was facilitated by the curriculum department. Teams of Fort Wayne community school teachers reviewed the instructional materials using a 6-step process. Teacher teams utilized multiple gateway selection tools to gather data concerning real-world application standards and usability. This data was used to support the recommendation of textbooks and related materials for the adoption. Families who are unable to pay student fees may apply for financial assistance. The state of Indiana reimburses Fort Wayne Community Schools textbook rental fund for a portion of the textbook rental charges for qualified students. And the remainder is supplemented from the education fund. So this process addresses goal 1, achieve and maintain academic excellence. Questions will be answered by Jennifer Mable, Director of Curriculum Assessment and Instruction, Joanne Philhauer, Scott Snyder, and Amelia Flagger, Curriculum Coordinators, and Carrie Stidham, Textbook Rental Coordinator. Oof. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Steve. And of course, in your packet, there was more information on those materials and rental charges. Questions?
I have one quick question, maybe two. The state reimburses us for those students who are qualified because they can't afford a textbook rental fee, correct? But is that 100% of the cost? That has it been 100% of the cost when we get reimbursed, or is it just as much as they can pay and we have to make up the difference ourselves?
Yeah, I think there was a time when we did get reimbursed fully, but they pay an amount per student is what the state does. So it only goes as far as the money they appropriate to all school districts in the state. So it has not been enough to cover all of our rental payments at this point. I'm sorry, I don't have that number in front of me. And I could get that to you later if you want, or Carrie may have it on her. Do you have that? No. Okay. So I apologize. I should have brought that with me, but, and then there's a portion of the fees that even the parents that do pay, if we have trouble collecting those dollars, then the state does allow us to go to the, put a certain amount of that on the property tax to pay, make up the difference. So we have a way to make up part of the difference, but not all of it. And the education fund does have to absorb a certain amount of the textbook rental fees. So I'll try to look for that while we're talking about the other.
So we need to encourage our legislators to budget a greater amount for the rental fees so that this can get covered.
That's correct. That's
okay.
Correct.
But you can let me know later. You don't have to let me know now exactly.
Oh, actually, hang on a second. I just found it for you. I can let you know. So last year we submitted claims to the state of $1,434,000. Actually, the state did reimburse us in total in the full amount last year. So that's not always the case. But last year we did get the full amount. About $1,450,000 was our total reimbursement. So that was good news. And then we had some that we were not able to collect from our parents, but so it depends on how much the state appropriates and how many that are eligible for the funds. And I suppose in the future, given the current environment, there could become more people eligible, and that could be a strain on the amount available that the state provides.
Thank you. And then I have a quick question for Jennifer. Jennifer, in the past, they've talked about passing a civics requirement for our students. Does these new textbooks that we're adopting, do they contain a civics component just in case that it becomes a requirement?
Yeah, and Scott can talk to this a little bit more from the social studies lens, but yes, and when we think about our high school components, that's a piece to the standards that have to be covered. And so when we talk about government and econ, that becomes a huge piece to the standards and the curriculum that's taught. Scott, do you want to add anything about the high school book for government?
No, the teachers put it through the rubric, the gateways that we ran each book through, and they felt it was the best choice. The requirement is that each government student takes the civics portion of the U.S. naturalization test. They don't necessarily have to pass it, but they do have to take it in order to fulfill their government credit.
But we are teaching to that? Are we teaching to that? So they get
absolutely. It is basic U.S. history, basic ins and outs of government. I actually gave it last week as a part of our lessons that we've been writing, a version of it.
Terrific. Thank you. Good to hear.
Any other questions? Okay, so all those we will vote on this proposal. of textbook adoption and rental fees with a roll call vote. Anne?
Steve, how do you vote?
Yes.
Glenna?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Yes, vote for me. Julie?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Very good.
So that brings us to the close of our meeting. We have no reports or information or statements. So board member comments. Steve?
I have no additional comments this evening. Thank you.
Glenna?
Yes, all I would like to say is I'm looking forward to the meeting next week when we can unveil our choice for a new superintendent.
Oh,
Tom?
you know that. No other comment.
Maria?
No comments.
Anne?
No comments.
Dr. Robinson?
Just to say, we've got 2 more schools, Wayne and Northside, that have to give out their graduation equipment this week. And it's not supposed to rain tomorrow. The other couple of our schools had to do a plan C and D, but it worked. And from what I've seen, despite all the hardship, the administration and kids are having a good time. So 2 more to go. Then we start locker clean out.
Have we started, have we done the elementary equipment pickup?
Yes.
They're in progress.
Yes.
And that's in progress? Is that going well?
Yeah, Gat might want to comment. I walked over and watched a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
As far as we know, they are going well.
I gotta go. We have a plumbing problem, flooding problem.
Oh, no.
Thanks.
Oh,
Dave, Glenna?
Okay.
Oh.
The principals have organized this well, and thanks to the work of facilities, Kathy, her people, and what I have found is how many hands it takes to organize a project, and we've been very fortunate that we've had a lot of help throughout the district to make sure that this is a smooth process for our students and families. In fact, last week we had that unexpected rain, and Snyder and Northrop are 2 of our largest high schools. And since we had to move it indoors, we had to make sure that the schools had enough face masks and that they were social distancing. Almost immediately, the principals and their staffs made plans to ensure that we were social distancing among our students. What was most wonderful about our school district was the fact that we made an all call for masks on Thursday when we knew Snyder had to move indoors. And by noon, we had enough masks for Snyder and Northrop because the elementary and middle schools took their extra additional masks and delivered it to the high schools to make sure that the 2 biggest high schools were covered. It was very heartwarming to think that the feeder schools, and it wasn't exactly an exact feeder, it was all the elementary and middle schools gathering together saying, we have 2 high schools in need, it's going to rain, they need our masks. And within a half day, these 2 high schools had enough masks to cover for their distribution on Thursday and Friday.
Great. And when do the high schools, is that next week that starts, when high school students come in and pick up?
This week.
Items that starts this week?
Yes, it starts this Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
So they have been amazing with their organization.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, they give each other ideas when we Zoom in the high school or the middle school meetings. They are just a very collaborative group of principals, and they give ideas, they help each other. In fact, there was a real funny situation where one of the high school principals said, oh, I don't think I have enough tents if we're going to do this outdoors and it rains. And the other 2 high school principals said, well, I have a north side that I can give you, Snyder, a north side tent. And Wayne said, I have a blue tent that I can give you. And then Snyder said, well, I think we'll try to find our black and gold tents. Still a lot of school spirit.
Great. So as I mentioned earlier, the board will meet at 4:00 on May 26th at Northside High School. And at that time, they will vote on the proposed superintendent contract. And if the contract is approved, then we will introduce that person to the community. We're still because of the pandemic and social distancing, it appears as though we're not going to be able to make that a public meeting. So what we're going to try to do is have the meeting indoors and then move outdoors for like a press conference afterwards. So, but we will be putting out a press release about that, and that will be posted on our website and social media. So, if those plans change, we will let you know that way. And then after May 26th, we will have a regular meeting of the board on June 8th. We have 2 meetings in June. Is that correct, Janet? June 8th and then the 22nd? Okay. Okay, well, that's all I have. So, Steve?
Madam Chair, I just had one thought. I have a face mask that I wear when I'm outdoors, but I sure would like a FWCS face mask for next week. If one of the high schools in my area, Wayne or South, has something creative, I would be sure to wear it.
They're just plain Jane.
All right.
I have a Fort Wayne Community Schools t-shirt I could cut up and make into a face mask for you, Steve, because I've watched that on YouTube. So if you're really serious about it, I could do that.
I'll see if Adam Swinford or John Hauser can come up with something creative.
Okay.
They're cleaning out lockers, Steve. They don't have time to make you a face mask.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay.
Well, anyone in favor of adjourning?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, when Ann calls your name, you may vote.
Steve?
Yes.
Glenna? Oh, she's not here. Tom?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Yes, for me. Julie?
Yes, so we have 5 yeses and 1 abstention.
Right.
Okay. See everybody May 26th.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye.